This is Rex, and you're watching the Brick Ninjas. Alright, I just saw John Wick Chapter 3 for the second time. Um, really enjoyed it the first time, wanted to go back and watch it the second time. Actually got a little more out of it the second time, and some things became a little clearer to me. But I have to say, I really enjoyed this movie. I highly recommend seeing it. I give it like an 8, maybe an 8.2, 8.5. It was so beautiful to watch and so fun to watch. I felt like I was watching art for like 2 hours. Everything that they did well in the first one, they do again in this movie. I felt like part 3 was better than chapter 2, I should say. I felt like chapter 3 is better than chapter 2. I enjoyed chapter 2, but it was missing some of the. It just didn't have the same energy as chapter 1. Chapter 3 definitely has the same energy. I just love these movies. I love it. To me, that they represent what hard work and determination and a little bit of fun can be. These, like, when I watch them, I'm like, I'm in awe. I'm like, gosh, look at, he's actually doing that. He's actually fighting this guy. How much choreography and how much practice and time did it take to just work out all the moves for that fight, and then look at everything around them. It's so cool looking. Like, how long did it take them to set up that set, or build that room, or all the things that they do, or gosh, how do they get the horse to keep running, and how they get him to stay on the horse, or how do they do that motorcycle scene? Like, I watch it and I just wonder, like, I'm just filled with amazement. Like, that must have been really difficult to do. These movies are awe-inspiring for me because of that, and that's what I enjoy about them. Even my wife really enjoys them, and she usually likes more of the more romantic stuff. She really enjoys these movies too because they're just so well done, and there's something genuine about the movies, and it's so fun to watch Keanu Reeves do all this stuff. Now, generally when I watch a movie, one of the things I really care about is story, and though John Wick is usually a little weaker on the story, I felt that this one was the weakest on story of the three. There's places that I felt like the story should have gone that it didn't, or would have made more logical sense to me. There's things that happened that didn't make sense to me, or were hard for me to buy. But where it lacked there, like I said, it more than made up for in the choreography. Now, this movie has way more fighting than I think the first two actually did. Um, and again, it's just beautiful. Those nice, medium, long takes where you get to see like what John Wick is doing, he's actually doing. It's not this crazy, let's put the camera in 50 different angles and try to hide that you really couldn't do all this stuff. I mean, you can see what John Wick is doing, or I should say Keanu Reeves is doing, he's actually doing. And even in the scenes where sometimes it feels a little slow, like, but there's so many things going on that your attention's getting diverted. This the second time I watched it, I kind of wanted to see what, when John Wick would like hit somebody or shoot them or incapacitate them, he holds them for a moment while he takes care of the other ones. I wanted to watch to see what those guys were doing. And generally what those guys were doing was pretty believable in the sense that you could see that they're like trying to like shake off a really hard hit, or they got shot, or they're reaching for a gun, or they're trying to do something, they're trying to get away, they're trying to get out of the area. Um, those that's it's executed so well that it's just like you have to watch it 2 or 3 more times just to be like really appreciate it, because even the first time you're like, man, that's really cool, but you almost don't want to believe it, and the second time you watch it you're like, oh, they really did pull that off well, they really choreographed that well. And that's what I love about these movies so much. So if you liked the first one, you're gonna like the third one. If you liked 1 and 2, you're gonna like the third one. My order would be 1, 3, and 2. Those are of favorites. 1 is by far my favorite. Um, Now, with all that said, I'm going to break into some of the parts of the movie that I didn't like, or some things that stuck out to me. Um, so there's going to be spoilers ahead. If you don't want any spoilers, don't watch any further than this. Just go out and see the movie, then come back and pick up right here where you left off and see if you guys agree with me, because I'm going to ask you some things about the comments later, or leave some comments below later. All right, so um, they actually cast some really cool people in this movie, some pretty really good people. Halle Berry and Anjelica Huston are the two that stand out the most to me. They go into John Wick's backstory a little bit, which I thought was cool. Um, in fact, John Wick has to go and as he's on the run, this picks up right where, 2 left off. He goes to seek out where I guess he's from, and I thought that was cool. They gave a little bit of backstory that he comes from this like Russian ballet mafia kind of thing, where you're like, you know what, that would make sense because he has to move gracefully and be able to maintain balance while he's fighting these people in all these weird, cool ways. And a lot of what he's doing is jujitsu, and that's just overpowering and putting people down. Um, he does it so well, but I thought it was cool. A little bit of the backstory was like, oh, that's believable. I could see like he had to learn this. And the way that they sell this is that they show a ballerina on a stage practicing in front of Anjelica Huston's character. She's got a tattoo just like John Wick is shown to have in the first movie. And that's really cool. And Anjelica Huston's execution of her character is really, really good. I have instant respect for her. She just seems like she's somebody you don't want to mess with. She commands respect and discipline, just in the role she plays, and that was really, really well done. They kind of walk through some of the areas, and they show like, oh, this is where John learned how to do this. This is where John learned how to do that, and it's really, really cool. Anyways, he goes to her to see if she'll honor like she. That's like where he's originally from. They kind of give his original name, which was cool, and how he's an orphan and he's come from this place, and he wants. He feels like they owe him because he still has some ticket for them to give him passage because now he wants to go look for. He wants to look for somebody who's more powerful than the table, so that he can get the heat off his back and not have to run all the time. Because he seems like he's feeling like, okay, this is just too much. That's the idea I get, but later on they reveal his motivation is different, which that was what kind of bothered me about it a little bit. But anyways, he gets passage from her. He goes to Casablanca, and that's where he meets Halle Berry. And I thought that first scene with Halle Berry was really, really good. And as she shoots him first, and she's talking to him, and she's kind of angry, but when she sits down to talk to him, she has this very emotional conversation with him, and it's something that I could identify with. Like Halle Berry's, character has a daughter, and she's worried about her safety. So she apparently what's insinuated in that scene is that John Wick has helped Halle Berry hide her daughter, so she doesn't have to worry about anybody finding her, and so that her daughter will have a normal life. And to me, that should be the motivation for these characters. These characters, they're kind of similar to the Hitman video game series, Agent 47, in that it almost seems like they're these orphans from society that nobody cares about, everybody wants to get rid of. So since they've never experienced love or had a normal life, they've just become trained assassins, and they have no connections to the outside world. So they lack empathy, so it's easy for them to kill and take care of people. But as those characters age, I would expect them, after a while, some of them at least, to develop some sort of like longing for a normal life. Gosh, this is all I do. I wish I had a normal life. And that was what was cool about John Wick's character was, in the first movie, he got out and he got to live a normal life because he was so damn good at what he did. They respected him enough to let him out and marry this woman and actually have a normal life. And he loses her, and that's what pulls him back in that somebody from that world mistakenly, destroys the gift that his wife left him after she died. So that made sense to me. In this movie, that's what I was figuring was going to happen, and that's where it kind of that's the weakest link to me. And I'm willing to forgive it because everything's so beautiful and fun to watch and exciting that I'm willing to kind of give up on the story a little bit. But that's something that's usually very important to me in a movie, is having a character with proper or relatable motivations. So in the movie, it's revealed that, like I said, Halle Berry's John Wick is calling in a favor because he did a favor for her. And he wants her to deliver him to some previous manager so that he can go and meet the guy who sits above the high table. That is where the story got weak to me. Now, there's still these beautiful fight scenes that I just love. And as I was watching this movie, I'm like, okay, cool, he's meeting Halle Berry. They have this really touching scene. And then, like, she goes to meet her old boss with John Wick. And it gets a little flimsy there where the boss wants her dog as payment for some information he gave them about, oh, you can, the guy who sits above the table, you can't find him, he finds you. Go into the desert and walk till you're almost dead. All right, I've given you this information, now give me your dog. That just seemed very weak to me. It could have been done a little bit better if they really wanted to play that guy as like, oh, he's just a dick who wants to kind of show that he's still got power and he's still worth something in this world and provide some value. So the whole dog thing just seemed kind of silly. Like, I wouldn't want somebody else's dog they've had for a while that's trained. Like, that dog would probably attack me, as fierce as her dogs were. So that felt a little flimsy. And then him shooting the dog, that could have been done a little bit differently. I did like Halle Berry's character, and I like the dogs because as I watched her fight, I'm like, we're supposed to believe that John Wick is the best at this, and she's like just as good as him. But I liked that the dogs were kind of tools to aid her in what she was doing. So it still like made John Wick a little bit better. But damn, I have to say, Halle Berry, the second time I watched that, I was really impressed. More impressed than the first time watching her do it. When they had that gun fu fight scene, she's amazing, and the timing and everything was executed perfectly. I liked her, she did a lot of same stuff that John Wick does, or I should say Keanu Reeves does, when he, incapacitates one enemy and takes out others. There were times where they're showing her getting a little bit overpowered by people, and she would work her way out of it, or the dogs would assist. And I thought that was really cool because it was more believable in that sense that she's a smaller, lighter frame. It's going to be a little harder for her to overpower, bigger, heavier enemies. So that was cool. And I thought it was funny when she goes to drop him off at the desert, and she's... At first it was a little stupid, but the second time I got a little bit more like where she swishes the water in her mouth and she gives him the water. You're kind of hoping like, oh, please don't take that. Like, I want to have more respect for my character than to think that he will, drink that what she just spit out. And they kind of leave that to your imagination, which I appreciated that they didn't show him do later. But what I was really, really hoping for, because I thought the scene in the desert looked really cool, and I'd seen interviews with the director beforehand that he just had this vision of John Wick in the desert, which I thought was silly. But as I was watching it and I was thinking about that interview, I was like, well, it does look cool. I mean, I get that. It seems a little out of place. I was really hoping that they were going to have, like, the person above the high table be some, like, heavyweight actor. I was really hoping for Christopher Walken to make a cameo as that character.
The ice is gonna break!
I love that actor, and I think he would be perfect for that role because this world is so crazy and unbelievable that you need a crazy and unbelievable but fun character to watch play that role. Sadly, though, they cast somebody else. The actor was good, but he just didn't. It didn't bring that weight to me. Like if it wasn't going to be Christopher Walken, I was hoping for maybe De Niro or Pacino or some other really big actor. I mean, they had Anjelica Huston, they have Halle Berry. Why not bring in another heavyweight to kind of help sell this world? And connect it to other worlds in a way. Like, hell, Ray Liotta would have been good too. But somebody like that just has that weight with them that you're like, oh, okay, cool, he's going to see this guy. And that's really where the story kind of... That part there is where the story started falling apart for me, where I was like, okay, this is stupid. And at the very end, I wish they would have done something different. I'll get to that in a minute. But, he has to go see this guy, and he wants to stay alive because he wants to keep the memory of love, which was very weird to me. I'm like, it just seemed like such a weak thing to me, which he totally gives up on that idea later, which, okay, why do we even go to the desert if you're just gonna ask for forgiveness and to let live and to be recommunicated or whatever you want to call it, have the excommunication removed, and you make a promise to kill Winston, who's like the one character I thought in this movie, like, all right, if John Wick has lost his wife, then the other character that's really close to him is Winston, who stuck up for him a bunch, and you can see like envies John in a way, and they have history. So now he's got to kill that character. So that kind of threw things off for me. I'm like, is he really going to do that? The one guy that's helped him, is he going to kill him? No, he can't do that. And then he gives up a finger. That was kind of weird to me. There was things that could have been done differently. If they would have had a heavyweight actor, I would have been a little more willing to be like, no, okay, whatever, I'll go for it. This is cool. This is really fun. But they just that was, to me, that's what that was missing. If they were going to play the dice that way, they're going to play the game that way, have a big actor. That's one of my gripes about the movie. Losing the finger. If he would have lost the finger in a fight to Zero, the character he meets after this, the bald hitman that's trying to kill him, I think that would have been a little more respectable, because I've been like, okay, yeah, like he's not, John Wick isn't so indestructible in that he's a little smarter, and he always has a little more of an edge on his opponents, though he gets hurt. You know, he's been shot, stabbed. If he would have lost that finger that way, I would have had more respect for it. So in a sense, those are the things that hurt the movie for me. But I'm so willing to forget that or forgive it, because it's just so fun to watch these movies. They're just, like I said, those fight scenes are amazing. Those long medium shots are just so cool to watch, and the choreography, and I mean, just, it's awesome. So that's one place that the movie hurt me. Some people complained about the adjudicator. I do wish there was a little more story for her. Something a little more to grab onto, or to at least be like, okay, that makes sense. Like, a good villain really makes a good movie. And I know John Wick's character is so huge, but I want to have a good villain for him. Even if it's like a 3-story arc or a 4-story arc, there's got to be a good villain. So maybe in Chapter 4, they're going to make a really cool... Maybe they'll put in a big heavyweight like Pacino or Walken or somebody cool to see in Part 4, where I'm like, oh, okay, cool, I'm totally along for the ride. I want to see what's going to happen here. She spoke really well, but everybody says she was kind of wooden, and I don't know, she was kind of just a bit rigid, but I don't know what else the character could have been without a little more backstory and something more to hold on to. Didn't bother me that much. But another part of the story that was kind of weird to me was like, okay, why is the High Table going to wipe out the Bowery and then kill most of its assassins or all these people that work for it and punish everybody? Isn't that going to kind of like breed a backlash? Like, okay, you've wiped out all these people. Like, I don't know, maybe it makes sense to me. It was a little bit hard to make sense to me. It was going through all that. John Wick comes back just to give up on him. He's not going to kill Winston, which that made sense to me. It was a little weak to go to the desert and then come back and figure that out. But I understood, like, yeah, he can't kill that guy. They're really good friends. They're really close. Why would he do that? Like, if he loved his wife, he loved his dog, or the gift that she gave him basically was basically a representation of her, the innocence of his previous relationship. I could see that him and Winston have history, and Winston has a respect and an envy for John Wick, and that he got out and got to have a normal life because he's so damn good at what he does. That's where I kind of lose it. Now, the next fight scenes are really, really awesome. I love how the concierge helped him, and they have to get more firepower, and I thought that was cool, and I liked the practicality of, like, he shoots the guys and he realizes that they have this upgraded armor, which the concierge had told him about. So he's got to get close quarters with them and really, like, work that gun into to weak spots in the armor and kill them. That was cool. My understanding of body armor, though, is like it doesn't stop high-powered rifles like AR-15s or the rifles that they were using earlier in the scene. Like, it's like there's just no... Those travel so fast, and the physics involved, the bullets are so quick and so heavy, they go through body armor. But anyways, the practicality was pretty cool with handguns. I like the one scene where they go in the water and John Wick is fighting one of the bad guys, and the bullets are, the guy's trying to shoot him, and John Wick's just keeping some distance between him and the bad guy, and the bullets just don't make it. Because in reality, that's the way it works. Like, bullets they lose all their energy in water really quickly. You've seen that on YouTube. Everybody kind of knows that now, that you can't really shoot through water. So that was cool, and John Wick, defeating that guy was pretty cool. The next part that got weak for me, and I loved watching this movie. It's just those couple weak points in the story where John Wick just wants to live for love. He cuts off his own finger. The guy over the high table is not as impressive as I thought he would be. And then when John, basically beats all the bad guys, and the adjudicator and basically the high table wants to do parlay with Winston because they know it's just going to be too much chaos and cost too much money to do all this, which I'm surprised they didn't think of that earlier when they were killing everybody else. They decide to have kind of a truce and negotiate and reinstate Winston's character, which was interesting to me. What winds up happening is Winston shoots John Wick to prove his fealty to the high table. And the concierge does say like, "Oh, that was well played." Like, so there's something afoot. But what I wanted to like, and John Wick is obviously alive at the end, and he goes to the Bowery King, or somebody's delivered to the Bowery King, and it seems like there's going to be a war between the Bowery King, John Wick, and the High Table. And I imagine Winston's going to be a part of that. What I would have liked to have seen, and what I felt would have given more emotional weight to John Wick's character, and would have let me forgive some of the earlier parts of the story that I felt were just really silly. Is if when they were negotiating at the end and John Wick is on the roof with Winston, the adjudicator, and the concierge, is if the adjudicator would have had Winston killed. Like William Dafoe's character was killed in the first movie. John Wick has such a history with Winston, and the audience has such a history with Winston, that you're like, oh no, they just took out his friend, like the last vestige of regular life that he had to hold on to, the only friendship he had, that's all gone. I mean, all he has now is maybe the concierge, but he just killed his only friend. John Wick's going to be angry as hell now. Now he's got a real reason to be like, wow, you took the gift that my wife left me, you took my life from me, and now you've taken my friend from me. It's on. If she would have done that, that would have been more satisfying of an end for me. Like Chapter 2 had a pretty satisfying end. Like he gets to the end, that guy's like, oh, just rubbing his face that he can't kill him, and he kills him anyways, because he's like, he's gotta die. That guy's gotta die. He's an ass. He deserves to die. That's justice at the end of the movie. The justice at the end of this movie would have been the High Table signs its own death warrant by killing the only friend that John Wick has, and just being completely humanless, or I don't know what the right word for that would be, but just, they don't care. They have no empathy, so they just kill him. If they would have left it right there, that would have been really cool going into 4. But obviously something's up. They have some ideas, and I've heard that Chad Stahelski and Keanu Reeves, so they have ideas for days for this character. And I'm excited to see more. The story wasn't horrible. It was weak at points, and I'm willing to forgive it because of the movie is so good. Watching all that action is awesome. But I do want a little more from the story. I want more fighting. I love all that fighting, and the choreography is just fun to watch. Like, this is so cool to see how creative they have to be to come up with all those fight scenes, and then how they're going to film them, and all the backgrounds, the lighting, and the colors. That stuff just fascinates me, and I appreciate it so much. But it looks so good. It deserves a little more substance, a little better story. So, in the comments below, what do you guys think? Do you think that the story was fine? You wouldn't change anything about it? Or do you like some of my ideas where, maybe Winston should have died to give that, John Wick's character more motivation? That was just the only thing that was lacking in the movie for me, was John Wick's true motivation. That was what they revealed it as, just didn't seem relatable to me. But let me know in the comments below what you think about the motivation of John Wick. If you think that they should have ended it like I thought they did, or you think they ended it fine. And what are you looking forward to in part 4? What do you want to see? I want to see some heavyweight actors. I want to see a Christopher Walken, or Robert De Niro, or Al Pacino, or hell, Gary Busey. Just somebody freaking awesome to watch. In a next movie that can be like a good balance or something to all the action. Just somebody crazy like that. Go see the movie. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Bye.